Peter Schultz, our videographer, is here. He's also going to begin video.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
We're with Peter.
Yep.
Will the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, June 15, 2022, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a hybrid planning and zoning meeting hosted in person at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, Montauk Road, 25th floor, as well as virtually by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. 1. When you first enter the Zoom meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2. Please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so you can be seen by the others when and if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise with the meeting chairman during the meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You'll still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera's not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearing, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3. The secretary will read the call of the meeting as published according to Governor Lamont's executive order. 4. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.ci.guilford.ct.us, and also through a direct link on the Planning and Zoning page. 5. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from commissioners. 6. There will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. 7. After clarifying questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support of the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. Then, those who wish to speak in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward and make their statement. 8. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 9. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings, the regular meeting, during which commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 10. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@ci.guilford.ct.us after 9 a.m. 11. All actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will be identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening, following members who please identify themselves. Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
Ted Sands.
Here.
Philip Johnson.
Present.
Sean Cosgrove, our secretary.
Hello.
Frank DeAndrea, vice chair.
Aye.
I'm Scott Edmund, chair. I don't think we have Jason Murphy, Larry Rizzolo.
Here.
Is our alternate tonight. But you will not be seated, Larry. Staff President Jamie Stein, Town Planner.
Good evening.
Lisa Piovino, the Planning and Zoning Administrative Assistant. And Peter Schultz, videographer. This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing. The secretary will now read the legal notice.
Hereby given, the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold an in-person hybrid public hearing on June 15, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church, Guilford, Connecticut, Montauk Road, second floor. You may also join this meeting via Zoom. The following applications will be heard. Mirza Akhtar, 72 Stepstone Hill Road, map 91, lot 30C4, zone R5, special permit for a one-bedroom, 772 square foot, after-the-fact accessory apartment. David Talbot, 158 Wild Rose Avenue, map 70, lot 2, zone R6, special permit for a 520 square foot accessory apartment. Anthony and Daniela Papagoda, 160 Woodland Lane, map 108, lot 5, zone R8, special permit for accessory apartment. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website, www.ci.guilford.cp.us. At this hearing, persons may attend by either person or via web connection and shall be heard. All written correspondence shall be submitted to planning.zoning@ci.guilford.cp.us 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office, dial 203-453-8039 for assistance. Dated in Guilford, Connecticut, this 24th day of May, 2022, Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you.
Make a motion to open.
All right, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda is David Talbot, 158 Wild Rose Avenue, map 70, lot 2, zone R6, special permit for a 520 square foot accessory apartment. Is Mr. Talbot here?
Hang on, thank you for letting me
Thank
know.
you. Please,
Congratulations for finding the correct address.
right. Please send your name and your address for the record, please. Could you give us your name and your address for the record, please?
158 Wild Rose Avenue, Guilford.
Thanks. Do you have, Jamie, do we have a drawing that we could show?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that for you, Mr. Talbot. Just give me a moment to pull it up on the screen. Perhaps we'll go with the updated survey, Mr. Talbot?
Sure, thank you. Whatever you got.
There we go. Let's see if we can zoom in, perhaps.
Maybe just a tad history here. This, we've been, Ann, my wife and I have been here since 1989. On the deed, the home itself is listed at 760 square feet. So it's a very tiny little house. And behind there, where I proposed to build this accessory guest house for us, family guest house, is where the garage, there was a garage when I purchased in '89, a two-car garage, and it was torn down. And that was sometime in the 90s. Anyway, just a quick history. So this was threefold for us. I just retired. My wife and I decided to stay in Guilford. We love it here. And my house being so small, we want family to visit. This will also have no stairs, single floor for us, because this little is, like we call it affectionately, the tree house, 158 Wild Rose. Is a funny little place with tight stairs up to the living quarters, and we know eventually that may be something for us. So it's going to serve for us both short term and long term with having family visit, which is all over the country. So that's the history of it, and thank you. If there's any questions, obviously.
Jamie, is there a plan for the building itself?
1 second, sorry.
Yeah, it's been drifted the final drawings on it.
Would that be plans too, Mr. Talbot?
I'm sorry, I should have had that in front
That's
of me. I
okay.
apologize.
It's okay. My apologies
Let's
as well.
be good. Thanks. I have the plans right downstairs. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just going to take a minute to load.
Probably the first one.
The first one? Okay.
We said 520, I thought my final plan was more 440, 22 by 22, but that, whatever you have, it shows it there, obviously. That's, the point for us was both for family to visit and then future for us, the bedroom and living quarter, a kitchen and a bathroom, single floor.
See if I can-
16 feet from the house, could be connected eventually, but it will be independent.
Great.
Certainly any other questions I can answer. I appreciate, town's been great in helping me through this because it's important for us. Gone 3 steps, for family, for us, for the future, and for any help we may need in the future here. Just personally, because we're going to stay. We love the town, and we're transplanted, but we've been here since '89 at 158 Wild Rose, and it was sort of a tear down. If people know the area, but we loved it. We want to stay in the house and build this out back.
Sure. Mr. Charlotte, you mentioned that there was originally a garage here and then that was torn down. Was the foundation for that garage taken out, or as part of the project, are you taking that foundation out?
It's completely out. It was taken out then. The slab was sort of broken. Anyway, bottom line, it was all taken out. And dirt back there. And yes, so no slab, and it'll be from scratch.
I don't see any memos from the health officer regarding septic.
We got one today.
I'm sorry. Todd Anderson called me last night. He's been on this from day one and said it was all submitted. He said I had 2 commitments because the town was great, but the health officer came out and we dug up everything, and we're putting a new septic tank because we're bringing the house up to code. So it's going to be 1 septic tank up in the field behind the guest house with a pump, and the requirements were to be in the field. This is what Todd, quoting Todd last night, and that it shouldn't hold anything up as long as I'm good with where we're putting it, which was his design and drawings in the field, and then we hook up to city water. That was what his statement was to me. So that's as much as I have at this point. I hope his stuff was completed there enough to not hold this up. But we're putting in one new septic system for both structures.
Thank you. Captain Clark, can you read this in the record for us, please?
You bet. To Planning and Zoning Commission from Shirley Mickens, RS, date June 14, 2022, RE 158 Wild Rose Avenue, map 70, lot 2, accessory apartment. The Health Department is working with the engineer on this application. They will be installing a new septic system for the existing home and applying for a central system exception. This application we approve as long as they abandon the existing well and hook up to city water. Shirley Mickens, RS.
Very much.
Welcome.
Can I ask a question? What is the central system exception?
I'm sorry.
I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I haven't heard that terminology.
I was told I need a new septic, bring it up to code, and I was happy to do that. With the existing and the new one, it'd be 1 system. So I'm not sure. I don't.
Yeah. Other than, institutional knowledge, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I'm curious what that means.
It could be new terminology.
Or I'm not sure. Something related to replacing their old septic system like this.
By the way, you won't regret hooking up to city water.
Yeah, I've been told that, and the irony was, I was having, my pump was going out in 2004, roads was scheduled at 8 this morning to put a new pump, and Todd called me last night and said, because I was going to get city water anyway, so that saved me, and yes, I'm glad to do that, and it's right at the end of my price.
Any particular reason for that mandate, do you know?
I was not told that, other than roads pump. The work guy had caught him before he came. I said, pump this, because I was told I had to, which I'm glad to do, and I think it's much better for us, and I want to do it in the long term anyway, so I'm happy to. He said, well, they can't make you do that. You like your well, I said, no, just relax. We'll pump that one down the road. So I'm glad we're going to hook up to city water, because I want to do this all right at once.
Well,
It could have been something related to the location of the new septic versus.
Yeah, that's just one.
That's my assumption.
For the record, if the power goes out, you still have your water. There's a lot of good reasons. I mean, you pay a little.
Doug redug this well twice, and I'm shooting air, and he said, your well's pumped, and he was putting it in this morning, and this stopped him, so thank you.
So generally speaking, accessory dwellings are allowed to hook up to existing wells and pump to the main house? Okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing that generally comes up is the capacity of the system itself, and obviously with the new system being installed, it's being designed for the house and the accessory structure.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, you don't have any other memos from town staff on this application?
No, we do not.
So then nothing else came up during your review?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? I think as we kind of, we under scenarios like this, we typically will discuss now whether we do a three-quarter, do a vote on whether to, to waive the requirement of a two meeting. However, due to our Zoom issues that we had getting on this meeting and the lack of public as a result, it sounds like most commissioners are interested in just going with the two meetings on this one and extending it to the next meeting. I see some people shaking their heads, yes. Does anyone object to that?
I would say, David, just proceed forward with whatever the plans are for, your building. But
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident we would approve this at your next meeting, and I'm not concerned. But logistically, we need to have it, because there were some technical issues with the Zoom link.
I understand.
So if it were my call, I would say just go, if you need to do something to move forward, go ahead and do it. And then we will see you on the next meeting and address this quickly.
And I appreciate that, and I have some expedience to do that, but I also appreciate what happened, and so anything that works, and I understand that.
One little wrinkle I was thinking about, it's been my experience so far since I've been on planning and zoning, is that the Zoom meetings don't make it to the town website for about a month and a half, sometimes 2 months. So I don't know if any way to expedite that for the purposes of next month's meeting. So there is a chance that that kind of stays the same, that, again, not that you're anticipating any kind of, agreement against it, but the public might not see this prior to the next meeting.
Well, any idea why that might be, Scott?
I can-
Or Lisa?
I can field that one. Thank you. I'll field it with, we're getting a new website. And it should become operational next week. And with that new website comes full control over uploading the majority of our files as well as our Zoom link to the website ourselves. So, but also anyone is free, I'll say this for the record and for anyone here in the audience, you are free to call my office, 203-453-8032, and get the Zoom link directly from me. So if you do see that it's taking a while to show up, that would be because we rely on a middle person at this point in time, but soon we will not have that.
The irony of announcing how you can be reached, yet you can't be reached because of...
I know what you're going to say, Phil, but there are 10 people in the audience.
And that information is also on the legal notice as well.
Thank you.
Make a motion to continue.
Can I just ask one question, Philip?
Yeah.
In terms of, and I understand, so the July meeting, because I have a small local Guilford builder who's been great with this, and he said, well, because obviously he can proceed the plan, but we need to wait till the July meeting to actually get a permit for him to pour a slab or do anything other than just get ready to go, right? I mean, that's that, just so I'm clear. Okay.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, understand that, and on top of that, I just like, and particularly Lisa, I know she's on the call, I'd like to thank her, because this thing was, everybody in the town hall was really great. I'm sorry, we gotta wait till July, but I also understand the issue here, so.
Appreciate that.
I want to thank everybody for their, quick support up there and helping me through the process, which was an important one for me. So Lisa, thank you, and everybody else up there. So appreciate it. I got the word then. Okay.
So since we do have this with two-person audience and we have some folks in the reading room, I'd like to just officially go through and ask, is there any questions from the audience, from the public on this application?
Not in
Is
the
there
room,
any-
Mr. Chair.
Is there anyone that would want to speak in favor of this application? And is there anyone that would want to speak opposed to this application? All right, great. Mr. Johnson?
Can I make a motion to continue to our meeting of July 6th?
Is there a second?
Thank you, Ken.
Mr. Sands, thank you. Roll call vote, Kevin Clark,
Here, aye.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
and I will vote yes. Again, Ms. Talbot, thank you very much for your time. And we'll try to expedite this the next meeting. Second item on the agenda, Mirza Akhtar, 72 Stepstone Hill Road, map 91, lot 30C4, zone R5, special permit for a one-bedroom, 772 square foot after the fact accessory apartment. Who's here to present?
Mr. Chair, I do not see Mr. Akhtar. I did call him and leave him a message regarding the Zoom link. If you would just
Okay.
give me a moment here to check my email. I don't see an email response, but I also did email him, so.
Can we make a motion?
I do, I called him.
Can I make a motion to move the application for Anthony and Danielle Papagoda up, and we'll hold the.
Okay, so you're gonna get back to that one?
I'm sorry, just one moment. Okay, I see. We do have a member of the audience who has come with a particular interest in
We have
a whole row of audience members who have come to speak regarding 72 Stepstone Hill Road. Scott, how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, unfortunately, if we don't have anyone here to present the case, then we are likely to just have to continue into the next meeting. There would still be the same 2 meeting requirement for public hearing in it.
Okay. So I thank you for joining us this evening. I'm sorry for the
Do you have
inconvenience.
questions related to exactly to the application, the wording of the application? Answer any of those?
Perhaps.
So certainly you can connect with Jamie Stein over the course of the next 2 weeks to discuss any questions related specifically to the application list.
Can you help?
Now,
So
is
again,
it officially tabled, or
Yes.
if we were to leave
No,
now?
it's not officially, hey, I'm sorry, everyone, it's not officially tabled. There's a motion on the table from Bill Johnson to move to adjust our, for Papacoda to be next and push down Akhtar to the next after that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is Anthony and Danielle Papacoda, 160 Wilbur's Lane, map 108, lot 5, zone R8, special permit for accessory apartment.
Mr. Papacoda is here to present. Come on up. Would you like me to show your drawings?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Just give me a moment to pull those up. Close out of Mr. Talbot's. Let's go to Papacoda. Which one? Shall we look at the revised construction drawings or the house plans?
I'm not really sure.
Okay,
I'm sure
let's
it
try the
shows
house
everything on
plans.
either.
Great.
Yeah, there's the
Yeah.
blueprints there.
Okay, great. So let's get you to a page you can talk to.
I would
this
say next one.
Next one?
Yes, yeah, it shows it there.
Great, okay, I'll try to zoom in just a smidge.
Yeah, it's the jut out next to the garage, if you scroll down a little bit more.
No.
So it's essentially part of the house.
Okay, it's this guy here?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's about 1,000 square feet there.
Great. Okay, you want to just explain your project?
Basically, I offered my parents, who are older now, retired, we're building a new house here in Guilford, and I offered them to sell their house. They're actually selling it to my sister, and I offered to build them a part of my new house and move in with us and my kids and wife. We sold our house in East Haven, came to Guilford for the school system. So now that me and my wife are established, good jobs, I figured I'd do the nice son thing and offer my parents a part of my house too, tell them to downsize. So I added 1,000 square feet for my parents, kitchen, living, dining, bedroom, full bath, closets, and we made sure we did everything with the town ahead of time. The project's actually already pretty much, I'd say, 75% done, but it was basically just making the septic system bigger. We're on about 3 acres, so we're within all the setbacks and everything. So we did our homework ahead of time to get this pushed through. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I think everything was good with planning and zoning as far as I know, to continue with everything.
Jamie, we don't have any memos from town staff, but assuming that they got a building permit, so therefore the health inspector was fine with their septic system.
Yeah, we have a permit, everything. We had to actually have Waldo upsize the septic system because of the in-law setup.
It just, not that it matters to us, but first floor living?
Yes, it's first floor living, yep. No stairs.
I mean, having parents that are on the verge of moving in with me.
I actually want to move into their place. It's really nice.
Do a house swap, right?
Yeah. They could stay with my 6 and 2-year-old. They keep them pretty busy.
Any questions from commissioners?
I assume all the abutting neighbors have been notified?
Yes, I believe it went out to 5 of the neighbors.
Do you have some elevations here, Mr. Papa?
Yes, I think, farther down. Yep, there's a front view of the house. So essentially, it's that jut out to the left is where they'll be staying. Blueprints originally were, we know, one window, and we extended it out. There's a side view, so that chimney that's closer to the garage is essentially where their fireplace is, and that jut out over there. That one to the right is where the main living house is. There is only one electrical service. I'm going to pay for everything. I didn't do split the service or anything. That essentially is their back door to the right. Yep, right there. Yep. I didn't really.
Will there be an internal entry access door?
Yeah, they basically my mom's gonna park in one of the garages, and it's really one house. I didn't want it to look like 2 houses. That was one of my pet peeves.
It's basically a hallway that's connected to.
Yeah, you're gonna come in. Yep, exactly, just like that. I offered.
That's awful nice of you, by the way.
Oh,
And honestly, we made a bunch of changes to the accessory dwelling regulation years back, which is just exactly what we wanted to do. I mean, to allow people's parents and or children that needed space.
Yeah, it's
Pseudo independent.
Yeah, it's basically our forever home now. It's like I said, we're well established. I probably plan on moving into there down the road and giving my house to the kids. My father is having a hard time leaving North Haven. He's giving me hell over it, but my mom's excited. I can't say so much for my dad. He says we're in the middle of nowhere in the woods.
Well, going through this with my mother-in-law right now, I would say, just come spend some weekends. See,
Yeah.
No.
you kind of warm them up a little.
Your kids are gonna
That's on
love it.
you.
Oh, yeah, we're excited. I'm guessing project is gonna be done August, September-ish. You know, hardwood floors are going in now. Oh, it's all the finished work at this point. Siding's done, septic's in, it's getting close, but delays have been killing us with materials. We just got hit, the garage doors aren't coming till July now, and one of my wife's soaking tub in the master suite, I call it, isn't coming till September. It's just one thing after another. By the time I move in, it'll be 3 years since I sold my house.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there any questions from the public? Anyone who would speak in favor of this application? And anyone that would speak opposed to this application? Again, apologies for the issues that we had with the Zoom link, but I think, it's the same as what we discussed on the previous application. I think for the benefit of public in general, having the opportunity to review this application and speak their mind or ask their questions, I think it seems like we should recommend that we continue. Would one of the commissioners like to propose that motion?
Motion to continue to July 6th.
Second?
Ted Sands, second, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Philip Jonathan,
Yes.
John Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank Andrea,
Aye.
and I also vote yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Papacoda. Again, similar to Philip's comments to the last application, seems pretty favorable at this point. Just, we need to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. So, you're already,
I would
you're waiting on
anticipate a
garage.
fairly brief appearance.
Right, you're already waiting on garage doors and soaking tubs, so I think you got plenty of time.
Yeah. So what's a few more months is, after 3 years, is nothing right now.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Jamie, have we heard from the other applicant, Mr. Akhtar?
No phone call, and let me once again check my email. No, just poor Sherry Cody trying to get into our meeting. So I'll try to let Sherry know.
Okay, Jamie or Phil, just as you've been on the commission for a while, I don't feel comfortable just opening up his case at the moment without a presentation from him.
I don't think we can. I mean, for people to make comments in advance of a presentation,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, if he's not here to respond to the comments, it's not fair.
It's not fair to them, it's not fair that people make comments, and I do appreciate people taking time and effort to come out, but, we'll be here and you will be heard. It's just, we have to make sure that if there's a public input on this, that everyone has had access.
We do have
Just a quick question.
A quick question?
I happen to be in the state on the day of the next meeting. and
July
sometimes-
6th.
So if there's a way, and I think I'm actually going to be on a plane at that point, so I
Okay.
can't even zoom in. If there's a way for me to.
You can provide written testimony, which I will
Okay,
read
I can
in the
send that
next
to you,
meeting,
or
yes.
we-
Or
That's
you
me.
could send in a
That's me.
letter or
Yeah.
an email to Jamie that can be read into the record.
Okay,
Yeah.
And if there's any other materials you want to submit, feel free.
okay, thank you, I do
I
appreciate
have
that.
a procedural question. As far as work going forward,
Mhm.
is that something that can happen?
No, you mean work on the property?
Yeah.
No. We have to have this approval before any building permit would be issued.
Okay, because there has been ongoing work happening.
Right.
Correct, so just
So
for,
this is an after the fact, so is there a cease and desist on, or is this already completed?
no, it's cease and desist, correct?
There was a stop work order
Stop-
placed by
sorry,
the
stop work
building
order, yes.
department.
So
So,
they started working on the
Yes.
premises without notifying
That's
the
right.
town without a permit.
that's right. And
Jamie, what prompted the stop work order?
Again, I would ask that anyone who has questions about the application, please reach out to my office. anytime tomorrow. And I am happy to answer these questions, but I do feel that in the public hearing portion of this meeting, that I would rather not discuss the details.
Correct, we'll go through it in full thoroughness at the next meeting.
There is a photograph on our packet.
There is, yes, that was supplementary information, that we'll also discuss that. So with that in mind, I'd entertain a motion to continue to our next meeting.
So moved.
I would actually,
Or do we?
not continue this, because I don't think we opened
We
on
didn't
this.
open it.
So are we tabling?
I would say table.
Table? Okay. Roll call vote, Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank Gianandrea,
Aye, sir.
and I also vote yes. Thank you very much for coming in, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that an issue.
Apologies again, sorry about that, but please feel free to send me an email or give me a call. And if you'd like your testimony read into the record on the July 6th meeting, I can do that. Yep. Okay.
And you could even I don't know if you're so inclined, you could also video and send it. I'm sure Jamie could get that.
I feel I'm already technologically challenged enough.
If you felt like a letter wasn't a strong enough.
I think my concern is there are questions that I have that might be able to be addressed by Jamie, and there's a lot of stuff that you don't know, and clearly we're tabling, there's a back history with what's going on in that property.
Right.
So I think it really needs to be made clear of what the property is, and what their intention is, that has been shared with us, via the contractor and visitor to my husband. And I just don't know if there is 100% forthcoming. I just want to make sure that you guys are making those informed decisions.
Certainly, procedurally, Jamie can answer any questions.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
I will, happy to do so. Sorry, I'm just
Great.
inviting Sherry.
All right, so we'll move forward to our regular meeting. Pending applications. Is this something we're hearing today? Strawberry Hill Preserve, 22, 22, and 2240 Boston Post Road, map 78, lots 10 and 11, zone MU/C2, site plan for lot line modification and construction of 48-unit multifamily residential development.
Thank you.
Thank you, take care, bye-bye.
Discuss the site plan.
Would you like to see it?
You can certainly bring up what we submitted to you, Jamie, and I could just kind of go through it up here.
Sure.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Joe Wren with Indigo Land Design. I want to look up here on one of your monitors, but I know if I face forward, it's probably better for all of you. I'm the project engineer, civil engineer for this project. On Zoom are several of the team members. We have attorney Bill Sweeney. On Zoom, we have architect Matt Williams, and we have landscape architect and our lighting subconsultant, Mr. Stephen Wing, and then Ken Navarro is the applicant. All of those folks are online and could answer any questions that you may have. Jamie is going to bring up the plans that we submitted. We submitted a compilation set per her request last week. So this compilation set up on the screen now is just an overall cover sheet for the entire set. Within this set, we've included the survey maps, we've included the architectural plans, all the site plans, and so forth, along with all the landscape plans and lighting information. So as per Jamie's request, everything is here in one packet. I believe we did submit a paper copy of that as well, so that is available here, but there's no one left in the room. So it's just the three of us, Jamie, cameraman, and me. So just to start, Jamie, if you could zoom just a little over to the left to just get into the site location for everyone. So over on the left-hand side of the screen there, you can see the overall site location. It's on the south side of Route 1. Going towards Brantford, getting fairly close to that west end of town, and across from what I believe is, there's a small country farm there with a lake right across the street from that, if you're all familiar. Just to the west of this property is the Red Roof Inn, just to put you right on the right property. The overall property is about 40 acres or so in size, and this development is developing 18 acres. The other 21 and change acres of land will be donated to the Guilford Land Conservation Trust, since they own adjacent property as part of the Wolf Swamp Preserve area. Before I get any further into the weeds and details, Bill, did you want to add anything before I get into the plans?
Yeah, if I could,
Okay.
just quickly. I appreciate the commission having us here tonight. Just for the record, my name is Bill Sweeney, and I'm a land use attorney and a partner at the law firm Wilton Carberry in London, Connecticut. And I represent Greylock Property Group, which is the applicant. So Joe and Matt Williams and Steve are going to walk you through our site plan, which we've been working on for the better part of a year now. I think some of you may remember that we actually appeared before the commission over a year ago for an actual zone change of this property. And so the commission, after seeing a concept plan for this project, which quite frankly looked very similar, although a little bit more dense than what we're showing tonight, approved a rezoning of the front of these two parcels to your mixed-use Conservation 2 zoning district. And as you're aware, multifamily dwellings that are developed within a community pattern are actually permitted as of right, subject to site plan approval within the MU C2 zone. And so it is a site plan that we're seeking tonight, not a special permit. There's no public hearing. But we're really excited about the project. I think it's, not only is it a permitted use, but I think the project that we're going to share with you really goes to the very heart and purpose of the MU C2 district. I think it's important, if you look at the regulation and you look at that zone and the purpose of it, the district was really designed to encourage high-quality residential uses, but at the same time, simultaneously, trying to preserve large amounts of open space in an effort to protect things like wetlands, steep slopes, and environmentally sensitive areas. And Joe has already touched on the fact that more than half of this site, more than half of the 38 acres of land that is involved in this is going to be dedicated into permanent open space. And we've been working with the Guilford Land Trust. The entire southern half of the site, which includes wetlands, it includes steep slopes, and it actually butts up against and is adjacent to the Guilford Land Trust's existing land holdings associated with Wolf Swamp. That's all going to be protected permanently as part of this plan. So we think that the proposal that we're going to share tonight really goes to the heart of what the MUC2 zone was really intended to provide. I will say this, just from a legal perspective, I've reviewed the plans in depth. Our bulk and dimensional requirements for the MUC2 zone, our setbacks, our density, we meet or exceed all of those minimum requirements. And we have met with the Inland Wetlands Commission, who decided that they had no jurisdiction over this project because we shifted all of our development outside of the upland review areas. We met with the Design Review Committee that unanimously supported the design, and we've gone through departmental review and also health department review for the project as well, and we've made changes and reconfigurations of the plan to address all of their comments. So we think we're in a position tonight, if you find it, you deem it appropriate, that this is a project that you could act on in one meeting. I think it is important to note, and I just want to clarify this one issue before I go back to Joe to talk about more engineering level issues. There are two properties on this parcel, on this project right now, and part of our project is to reconfigure those two parcels with a lot line adjustment. And the project is going to span to these two parcels. You can see on the screen in front of you right now, you can see the parcel lines sort of cutting through the middle of the project, or the proposed parcel line. And it's important that we're doing it this way because, as you'll learn, there is no sewer out here, and this project is served by on-site sanitary septic systems. We don't have a sanitary sewer to discharge to. And so we're dividing the project into two lots so that we can make sure that our total discharge on each lot does not exceed the thresholds that would take this project out of local health department review. And so we work really closely with the Guilford Health Department on this project and on the septic design. Despite the fact that this project spans 2 lots, it will function as a single project under a common interest community. And so this will be a condominium project with a master condo association that makes this, while it bridges 2 lots for septic reasons, it functions as a single unified common development. And I think that, again, that's consistent with the requirements of the MUC2 district. So as we said before, Mr. Wren's going to walk you through the actual engineering for the project, circulation. He's going to talk about our stormwater and our septic design, which is really important. Mr. Wing is going to go through our landscaping and our lighting for the project. And then we're going to finish up with Matt Williams, who's designed what we think is some really attractive units, some beautiful, I think, new multi-family units here in Guilford that are of high quality and are really going to contribute to the aesthetics of this development. And we're going to be available throughout the night if you have any questions. But as I said, this isn't a public hearing, but we want to make sure that we're responsive to your questions and your concerns. So with that, I'll pass it back to Joe to sort of go over the engineering side of the project. Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
If this were, as opposed to 2 parcels, a single parcel, what would be the septic challenges or the septic requirements that are being avoided by dividing it?
So our discharge for the 1 parcel would exceed 7,500 gallons a day, which would transfer the approval of the septic system outside of the jurisdiction of your local health department and send it to the Connecticut DEP. And that process typically right now, if you can even get...
Just one, can I just, Jane, you're...
I know, I'm sorry.
On the screen.
I know, I'm terribly sorry about that. I just want to make sure these individuals have access to this meeting while you're talking, so, okay, just going back.
So subdividing this parcel kind of, I don't want to use the word subvert, but it finds a way around DEP requirements.
Mr. Johnson, this is Joe Wren. I'll get into those details. We already have 2 lots. We're not creating a new lot. And I'll get into that, and I'll show you the details beyond that.
Thank you.
Okay. I would just add, and we can talk more about the technical, but this is actually a very, very common technique here in Connecticut in areas where you don't have public sewer to be able to provide septic to serve both residential and non-residential uses. So in my career, I've probably done this a dozen times as a creative way to allow for larger scale development in areas where you don't have septic. So I wouldn't call it subversion. It's actually a common technique that's used to be able to fit within the septic requirements of the state of Connecticut. But with that, I'll turn it over to Joe with his presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And if I could have Jamie just go to the project survey map, which is a couple sheets down. This one, that last one was good, I think. Yeah, yep, that's fine, right there. So the existing condition survey map, that's up on the screen. You can see Boston Post Road at the top of the screen along the north edge. That's where all of our road frontage is. This is today's existing condition. So you can see that lot in the northwest corner that Jamie is pointing to with her cursor, that side, yep. So that is an existing lot as of today. The other side, the west side where the cursor is now, 2240 Boston Post Road, is the majority of the acreage, but it's its own separate lot. What we're proposing to do here is essentially annex. You can see the wetlands and the slope towards on the south side of the property that Jamie's showing you. We essentially annex that off. It's not a subdivision, it's not creating a new lot, but annex that off to the Guilford Land Conservation Trust, which in general terms they've already accepted because of the contiguous land that they have to the west and the south of this property. And so we had that line initially, that annex line, cut off all of the wetlands, so there would be no wetlands left on this particular property. And then we decided to have all the units at least 200 feet away from any wetlands, so that any septic systems behind those buildings, any stormwater management, any grading, any clearing would not encroach on the 100-foot inland wetlands buffer. So that was generally how the project initiated and resulted in the layout that we have now. But just to wrap up the lot line modification, that's also part of this application. That lot line that exists now, so the southern line would essentially be dissolved but moved back to that annex line. The western division line between the properties doesn't change very much. It changes just a little amount that you'll see on the site plans as we get into them. But essentially, we're keeping 2 lots, reducing the property area so we can give some open space away. And then, as Bill had already went into, we're able to discharge up to 7,500 gallons per day per property. We have 2 properties here, so the total discharge can be 15,000 with no more than 7,500 on each. With 12 total buildings, 6 of those buildings are on each lot. They're all 2-bedroom units, so we have a total of 48 bedrooms per lot, which is under the 7,500 gallon a day threshold. So that's where that comes into play. Before we get into the site plan, I just want to show you the existing condition. You can see the topography. There's some slope going down to the north, down to Route 1. As you proceed to the east on Route 1, it gets a little bit steeper down where the cursor is now and flatter up on the western side. And then on the southern edge where that annex line is, you can see the slope picks back up down towards the wetlands. Up on top of the slope, we have that very flat plateau, and that's where the majority of the development is taking place. So there's very little cut and fill on this site. We kept everything just where the loop road is that we'll show you, essentially at grade or just a little bit higher than grade, so that we didn't have any massive excavations, any massive additional grading, or hauling out of the site. There's a little bit of cut for the access road coming in to achieve maximum grade percentages, but other than that, it's generally very, very little cut and fill for this particular project. So if I could have Jamie go to the proposed site plan.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Was the southerly, can you go back to that previous slide, Dave? Yeah, so is the southern border of the existing lot on the eastern side of that this proposed plan, is that lot line on the southern side moving further south or not?
Yes, so Jamie, if you can go, so this is the existing condition survey map. The next one is the lot line modification plan. So here, this is the surveyor's plan. So you can see where the lot is now and then what it will become.
Okay, and so you're probably going right to the edge of where the land really falls off.
We're going to the edge of the nearest wetlands, so 100% of the wetlands will be on the Land Conservation Trust property. We do have some slope left on our side to the north of that line, but it's all preserved for the most part because it's within 100 feet of the wetlands. As Bill had mentioned, we went formally to the Inland Wetlands Commission, and they decided that we did not have to go in front of them with a formal application and seek a permit from them, because we preserved all of that buffer in more than 100 feet, and they didn't feel that it would have any negative or adverse effect on the site wetlands or its buffers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, as we get into the site plans, you'll see the proposed grading. So Jamie, if you can go to the next 2 sheets. These are just the general site plans. One more. There we go. Okay, so focus on the upper left-hand corner just to start, just to orient everyone. Just scroll up and to the left slightly. Okay, so up in the upper left-hand corner of this sheet, you can see the entire property outline. This particular sheet covers that gray shaded area. I believe we have called that one Lot A, and then the one to the west will be the next sheet, which we'll get into next, and that will be Lot B. So this particular one is the eastern lot. You can see the 6 buildings. You can see the existing property line along that stone wall at the top of the sheet, right there. And then the darker line that's more horizontal there is the proposed property line. Towards the left, that will be that southern annex line, which anything to the left of that or to the south will go to Land Conservation Trust. So you can see some of the slope remains on this property, but that line, that's 100-foot offset from the wetlands that Jamie's on now. That is the 100-foot buffer from the nearest wetlands. So you can see all the clearing, grading, stormwater outfalls, septic system, everything is outside of that 100-foot area. So that's fully preserved. So the details of this plan, you can see that we chose an entry point at the northeast corner of the general property right there. For a couple of reasons. One is Sightline is not a problem at this location. We could see more than the 550 feet required in both directions along Route 1. It also allowed us to achieve, even though we're hitting one of the lowest points on the property, getting up to the top plateau, it made the access road a little bit longer, which allowed us to achieve maximum grades of roadway, which is 10% here. There's a very short length of 10% road here. All of the rest of it is less than 10%, the beginning portion. And as we lay down up near the loop road, becomes very flat there. Going around the loop, as I mentioned before, we essentially maintain the natural grades more or less, and that's very, very, very flat, 1 to 2% or so up around that loop. So once we get up on top, it's just very, very flatly graded. Now, from Route 1, we have quite a bit of distance back. There's a few hundred feet back from the street line of Route 1, so we have that as a buffer, and also we have the slope relief as a buffer. So it's uphill of the road, not level or downhill. For the most part, from west to east is uphill of Route 1. And working with the landscape architect, you can see those squiggly lines. All those squiggly lines represent clearing limits. So the site is mostly wooded now. There are a few houses and structures on it with a gravel driveway and some other miscellaneous development and clearing. But for the most part, it is wooded. So you can see these areas, working with the landscape architect, we're able to preserve those existing treed and wooded areas outside of areas for septic and grading and stormwater to create as much visual interest and landscape buffer from Route 1 and also from the access road on the way up to the units at the top of the hill. So this eastern side of the loop road, you can see with the 6 buildings. Again, each building has 4 units in it. Each unit has a patio with a deck above, as you can see towards the rear of the units. They all have individual driveways with one-car garages, which Matt Williams will get into a little bit more detail shortly. They each have their own individual driveways, and then of course we have additional parking on the interior of that loop for visitors and residents. Because this is kind of separated from Route 1 and so forth, and we wanted to allow the residents to have the benefit of having adequate parking, we've added that on the inside of that loop, and we think it's more than adequately parked. That loop is a nice landscaped green area, which Stephen Wing, who's online, will go through with you in more detail. But it is more than 125 feet wide at its widest part, right in the center there. And it's several hundred feet long. So it's a nice landscaped green where people can recreate, have community gatherings, and so forth. Just very nicely well done with a sense of community. Every single all of the 12 buildings all face in toward that green, with the front of the buildings, and they all back up to a landscaped or wooded area. So there's privacy to the back, and there's more of that community sense to the front. Again, that's the same with all buildings. Between those units and the access road, you can see those 6 linear areas. Those are the septic systems, the leaching fields that serve those 6 buildings. They're all on that front slope. That front slope is the best soil on the site, so hence the need to have the septic systems there. And there was some preference of inland wetlands to have them not sloping towards wetland areas as well. So we did that, and also not wanting to clear cut that front slope, worked with the landscape architect to preserve as much natural buffer as possible. On the back corner, which would be the southeast corner, that area where Jamie is now, that is our main stormwater management basin. So from this entire development, stormwater management is reduced in both volume and peak rate of runoff from all storms, 2-year, 10-year, 25, 50-year, and the 100-year storms. There's less peak rate of runoff entering the wetlands to the south, and there's less volume as well, and also less volume and peak rate of runoff going towards Route 1 as well. So there's no more water leaving the post-development project as there is from the pre-development condition. All the stormwater management basins, you can see that semicircular arc around the stormwater outlet. That is a sediment forebay, which is typically required by the DEP water quality manual. That essentially has the capacity of handling more than 1 inch of runoff from all the impervious areas, the roofs, the driveways, the parking areas, the road, that drain to that point. So more than 1 inch of runoff in volume. That's the first flush storm. So more than 90% of our rainstorms are 1 inch or less in Connecticut. So 90% of the storms or so will be contained within that forebay area. Any trash that makes it there, any leaves, debris, sediment will be contained in that area. If there's a larger storm, it can overflow that into the larger part of the basin. Then there is an outlet control structure which attenuates the flow and meters the flow out so that we have very little flow leaving the basin at any given time. Up until I think it's about the 10-year storm, no flow leaves the basin. It all stays in the basin, settles into the bottom. It is planted with both seed and 2-inch plugs of wetland plantings to cleanse the flow, obviously enhance the water quality before anything exits. Once any water does exit this, whether it's via the spillway on that western end or the level spreader at the outlet on that western end, it goes to those riprap areas, goes over a slope overland more than 100 feet to the wetlands. So there's no point discharge to any wetland area or even within less than 100 feet to any wetland area. So as far as water quality goes, for this one, obviously a lot of provisions were added in to that effect, and we have no outstanding comments that we know of from engineering regarding the design of these basins or the water quality enhancement features. Going down to the next plan, Jamie, this is the lot to the west. So again, kind of similar, mirror image. You could see the 6 buildings, 6 4-unit buildings. You can see on this one there are 5 septic systems on the front slope. We did have one on the southern side over there, one of the buildings. We had soil in that area that was conducive to a septic system, and it was close to that building. So we're able to do it there. You could see that it's very far away from the nearest small wetlands areas. Another stormwater basin, as I just described, up on that western side, very similar with the sediment forebay, water quality volume, level spreaders. On this one, we do have another basin on the north slope, all the way down north central by the match line, Jamie, towards Route 1.
Oh, is it this?
Yeah. See the stormwater basin right there, close to your cursor, right there. Yep. That's our smallest basin. We just needed a small retention basin in that area to make sure that we reduce the peak rates of runoff and volume going toward Route 1. The basins in the back obviously handle the majority of the flow, and they handle all of the impervious areas from the development 100%. You can see there are swales behind these buildings that carry any additional runoff from the buildings over to and direct them to the basins. And that was true on the other plan as well. So all the roofs are collected in roof leaders and roof drains. They're tied into the stormwater systems for volume and quality enhancement. All the driveways are pitched to the road. The road pitches to the stormwater management system, which then makes its way to the connected basins. So all of that is treated. None of it is left untreated. It is all directed to those treatment areas. The sight lines along the road, Jamie, if you can go down, I'm not sure exactly which sheet, but if you can go to the sight line sheets. Nope, that is the...
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
With respect to the, so are there, am I correct?
So I can check my email.
There are 3 catch basins, right?
There are multiple catch basins along the road and also along the loop road.
Okay. And will they over time require any maintenance?
We do have drainage system maintenance within this plan set, within the details, but as requested by Kevin McGee of the town of Guilford. Bill could speak to this better, but he's putting together documentation that will make its way into the condominium documents that will require the maintenance of these by the condominium association in perpetuity.
Thank you.
What we actually, just to clarify and to add to the point, is we will actually be making a declaration on the land records with the operations and maintenance plan for the stormwater to first guarantee that it is the private developer and not the town that must maintain those drainage systems, but also putting it on record for all potential, future owners, future buyers within the condominium, that what the obligations are. So that will be reported with the declaration.
Just to touch on Sightline very quickly, I briefly mentioned it before. This is the main access road, which we're calling Strawberry Hill Road. This is the main access area, and this is looking to the west along Route 1. So you can see that profile going all the way out to the required 550 feet. If Jamie scrolls down a bit, you can see the actual vertical profile, and you can see there's no vertical obstruction in that. And if Jamie keeps scrolling, we'll be looking to the east now along Route 1. Again, 550 feet to that opposing lane, and again, there's no vertical obstruction. The next 2 sheets, and I didn't point this out in the plan view, but there is an emergency access road on the western side of the property. We had some staff meetings, and the fire chief, fire marshal was at those staff meetings, and he commented on this. We incorporated his comments into the plan. This is a 12-foot wide gravel road without much slope with a paved apron. And this will be gated at the property line. DOT wouldn't let us put the gate within the DOT right-of-way, but we will have a gated access. Access will be provided to the town fire department, of course, for any emergency use. And we did not want to leave this ungated so that people, enter the development or exit the development from this location. Although they could, the sight lines are good, but we just didn't want unwanted traffic through the development, of course. Looking to the west again, you can see that profile again out to 550 feet. Scroll down, you can see the vertical profile. There are no issues. And then the next sheet, again, looking to the west from Emergency Access Road, and with the profile there, you can see that there is a little bit of cut that is required there. That is part of the plan. And then you could achieve that sight line looking to the east as well for the full 550 feet. As Bill mentioned earlier, all the zoning criteria is met. We provide zoning data tables for everything, all of the listed zoning criteria for each lot. Those are included on the first couple of site plan sheets that we didn't really look into, but there's really nothing even close. All the setbacks, the coverages, and so forth allowed in the MUC2 are accommodated. The open space we talked about a few times, that will all go to Guilford Land Conservation Trust upon approvals of these plans. And regarding, or unless there are any questions regarding the site plan or anything I've already mentioned, I think we'll move into the landscaping and lighting.
I just have one question.
Okay.
Just because it doesn't show on the plan, the buildings that are across the street from your main entrance, do you know off the top of your head, or are you directly across from that entrance to that parking lot, or is it offset?
It's offset. We're almost across the street, almost directly across the street from the entrance to the farm. If you're familiar with that, is there a way you could pull up a GIS or Google map?
I think this might help us the most, perhaps.
Okay.
I'm not
So
So,
so Jamie went back to the cover sheet, which shows the site location. You can see the pond that's associated with that farm directly across the street. There's a little farm stand, right at that location. And that northeast corner is right where our access is. So we're away from the commercial development in that area and completely on the other side from where Red Roof Inn is.
Jamie, if you could jump up and share.
Yep.
If Jamie goes to the survey map with the topography on it, there we go.
So you're saying that your entrance is kind of here where my cursor is?
Much further to the east.
It's even further?
Yep. Yeah. See the houses on the property? We're beyond all that.
So this is on your property, okay.
Yes.
So it's actually way over here.
Keep
Keep
going.
going.
Even
Keep going to
further.
the east.
Right in that general area.
There you go. Down here.
All right, so that's significantly away from any of the other development that's around there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, if there's no other questions at this time anyways, we'll go to Stephen Wing. I believe Bill said he wanted to go to landscaping and lighting after me.
Good evening, folks. I don't know whether you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
Can.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm
Go down several pages.
Kind of.
You're breaking up on us, Mr. Wing.
Yeah, we can hear every other word.
I'm a landscape architect, licensed in Guilford. I with Indigo Land Design to fit this project nicely into the site. As Joe mentioned, the site is almost completely wooded, and we work closely with Joe and his team to minimize the extent of clearing. And we have around the perimeter of the property sort of a minimum of 60 feet and in some cases hundreds of feet of natural landscape that will be preserved. If you could go to L1, drawing L1.
Sure. Sorry, Mr. Wing, just taking me a minute to get there.
Just zoom out now.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, maybe you can reduce the scale of that a little bit so we get the whole picture. That'd be helpful, I think. There you go.
Okay.
As you see, going up the road, we have woods to the right and to the left, about 2/3 of the way up. And we're going to augment the existing vegetation with some native trees and shrubs along that road. Serviceberry, dogwood, witch hazel. As you get up to the top by the loop road, the view across the green presents a little sort of 14 by 20 foot, I think it is, pavilion that's right on that axis of the entry road as it meets the loop. The loop itself is about a quarter of a mile around, and the area of the green itself is about 1.25 acres. Now there will be some there's a pretty good possibility that we'll be able to save some existing vegetation in that green area, but we're not counting on that. So we have a mixture of shade trees and small native trees sort of going around, creating some shade in the parking lot. And all these, the larger trees would be 3.5 to 4 inch caliper with a 7-foot minimum branch height. In front of each unit, there's a little island that separates the garages, and we're using a variety of small trees, different trees, so that the presentation of the units will have a little bit of variety. Matt Williams will address that similar concern elsewhere. The area of the green will be seeded and maintained as lawn. And you can see the dotted line that sort of encloses the unit area. That's the seeding limit between what will be maintained as lawn and sort of a meadow grass. Over on the left of that drawing, the North Detention Basin, we're using a mixture of small native plants and small native trees and deciduous plants to try to naturalize that area. And the floor of these detention basins will be plugged with the sedge and seeded with a conservation mix that's specifically designed for areas that get inundated from time to time. Scroll sort of to the right of this drawing and down a little bit, you'll see the south detention basin. Do that. We can look at the larger detention basin that's at the southeast corner. It's larger, but it gets a similar treatment with small native trees and deciduous shrubs. There you go. Again, these shrubs have been selected for partly because they're native, partly because they're natives that are not yet on the deer diet, if you follow the drift.
I do.
Okay. Maybe we can go to the next sheet, L2. Okay, so on this drawing, we have a detailed plan that specifies the name, quantity, and size of installation of all the plants we're using. There are about 25 shade trees that are on the green and behind some of the units, and nearly 100 small trees that will be deployed around the site. You can zoom in a little on that typical landscape at buildings the panel that's in the upper middle of this plan. There you go. Scroll a little bit. Each unit has a paver landing in front of the unit, and then a small compact area with landscape plants. You see in that corner exactly there, little quarter circle area. It's about 100 square feet. In between the units, right there, we're going to use the street print technique of creating a contrasting texture, but we won't have a curve there because we're concerned about a tripping hazard in an area like that. As Joe mentioned, to the rear of the unit, there's a deck up at the main living level, and there'll be a small patio down below. We have planting details, planting notes, and specifications for the seed mix. I think now it'd be good if we can navigate to the sheets that show the lighting design. That would be P1 and
Mr. Wing, I just have a question. For all,
exactly where it is in the set.
Sean?
Steve, I think we have.
I just had a question. Are you expecting to need any soil augmentation? I mean, are you going to be just using the soil that's on site, or are you going to be bringing other material in for your trees and other plantings?
That's a good question, and right at this point in time, we haven't done a takeoff to see how much topsoil we're going to have, so we may be needing to import some soil.
Okay, thank you.
On the picture we saw of the site, there are a couple of existing houses. Are those houses going to stay, or are they going to be removed?
Those houses will be removed.
I see.
So if we could look at the lighting drawing.
The photometric plan or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there you go. So this is the work of Steve Robinson of watt saver lighting. Pole-mounted fixtures for the most part. They have LED light sources, and the illumination, the wattage is just a little bit north of 100 watts. The fixture you can see in that cut up in the upper right-hand corner is, we think, sort of a traditional look, even though it's a very sophisticated modern fixture. The poles are about 12 feet deep, and by the time you get the bell and the light source, the total height of the fixture is up around 14 feet. The photometric analysis shows that we don't have any light trespass. We have a reasonable light distribution. At that corner where our entrance drive meets Route 1, on the east side, we got a little bit of spillage, so the lighting designer is calling for a fixture on outside shield. So the photometrics show that we've got zero spill off that property line with the neighbor to the east. the lighting goes around the loop. Scroll down just a tad there. We've got light fixture adjacent to the mailbox kiosk, which is right there to the east of where the loop road joins the entrance road. And at the bottom of the drawing, it shows a couple of fixtures down at an area that we call the overlook. In a meeting with staff last week, we learned that there had been an expression of concern about light versus wildlife over by that wooded area. And we've come up with a solution to replace those pole-mounted fixtures with some bollards, which greatly reduces the spread of light up in that area. Sorry, we don't have that plan for you to look at, but plan is done, and the photometrics have been, that analysis has been done. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions now or later.
Commission, this is Joe Wren. Just a point of clarification, so that there's no light trespass into any wetland area or even any wetland buffer area. That small concern was just if, that light trespassed into the wooded area around the site. So Steve adjusted.
And we think it's a fair concern because that is sort of a prominent point, and the land slopes away. So with the bollards, we've eliminated that potential spill of light to the south.
Steve, one last item. Can you just go through the sidewalk network?
Sure.
As well?
We go back to L1, please.
Yep.
That's P. No, that's L2. We're getting there.
Give it a second.
Okay. Yeah, so there will be a new sidewalk on the southerly side of Route 1, going the full 700 plus feet of frontage along the road. A new walk parallel the entrance road, Strawberry Hill Lane, is there on the south side of Strawberry Hill Lane, comes up to the loop road, crosses, or at least there's a sort of zebra stripe crossing across the loop road, connects right to where the mailbox kiosk is, which would be to your right front if you're driving. But then we have spurs of sidewalk that pick up in the middle of the loop, go through the little pavilion, spur further to the south. That's zebra walks across the drive, and then there's a little walk that goes down to what we're calling the overlook. Not on the drawings, but we have, there might be a nice potential to connect from what we call the overlook to some informal paths on the land trust property. That's just an idea at this point. We're not proposing that at this time.
Steve, this is Sean Cosgrove. The 700-foot sidewalk on Route 1, was that something that was in your original plans? Was it suggested by any town department? I'm curious about that.
Yes, and I'll defer to Joe Wren on that point because he had you had discussions with town officials on that.
I'm totally in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. I think that longer term, we're trying to put more walker-friendly, pathways in place. So I appreciate the fact that it's in your plans.
This is Joe Wren, and Jamie probably could help me out, but early on, we had several design staff meetings. We incorporated everything that was essentially requested from us during those staff meetings. And along the way, a couple very, very important elements that were suggested to us are a sidewalk network, both along Route 1 and to our development from that sidewalk on Route 1 along our access road. So that was implemented from early on.
I think that it's a good example and a model for some other developers who are working in Guilford. I'll leave it at that.
Are less inclined to be sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, but it's a good example.
Thank you. And with that, barring any more questions for Steve, we'll just move over to Matt Williams, and he'll show you the architecture quickly.
Good evening, folks. Thanks for having us here tonight. My name is Matt Williams. I'm an architect at Madison Williams Architects, 897 Boston Post Road. I'm just going to give you the 5,000 foot in the air drone view of this whole thing, because that's where all these projects kind of start. And Jamie, if you could pull up Steve's site plan, the landscape plan, that would be ideal.
Sure.
Talk very briefly about the buildings. I just want to discuss the concept and how, what our goals were in terms of how we perceived or felt at all from the community's perspective. So I think there's actually around 1,100 feet of frontage on this site, and it's wooded and gently sloping from the west to the east on Route 1. You wouldn't mind scrolling up just a little bit for the road, Jamie? Yep. Okay, thank you. Sure. So, we walked this, almost 2 years ago, I think, the first time, and it's very, visually, the developable part of the site is very well protected. And it's a long way from Route 1. I think these buildings are at least a football field away, some of them as close as 400 feet away from Route 1. So the whole site sort of presented itself as being an opportunity to do a really private little development that wouldn't have really any visual impact on the town. In addition, it sits high above the road, some 40 feet vertical elevation on average. And I think it was, again, just kind of nice to have this thing tucked up on the knoll. So therefore, our goal was to try to preserve as much of the natural vegetation along the road so we would still have the same general feel, certainly, during the summer and the foliage is out. And Joe Wren and I walked it that day, and we looked for what we thought was not just the most sort of feasible way to get a road up into this, but also would be the most advantageous aesthetically. And as it turns out, that northeast corner is really where we have slopes that are gentler, working with the existing topography, where it really minimized the amount of cut and fill we had to do for that access road. And I think actually one of the members of the Design Review Committee commended us because we didn't just take the easy route, because from an engineering perspective, entering the site from the northwest corner would have been a lot simpler. But I think the developer has always been, we've worked with several times, our team has, they really want to do a high quality place that the people are really going to live at next door to the red roof inn as the entry, and it's going to make a lot of sense to us. So those are just some of the general thoughts about this. I think that the site was absolutely ideal for setting up something private and really innocuous in terms of its impact on the town. And I just wanted to share that with you. So what we tried to do at the top here is just arrange these buildings in a small village setting with this green in the middle. It's not super extensive. As Steve's pointed out, we'll keep as many of the existing trees as possible to try to keep it all feeling as natural as possible. Is generally the idea. So from an architectural perspective, there's we have a prototype building plan. And Jamie, I don't know if you just want to go to that floor plan sheet of ours. We'll actually stop right there at that site section. We'll talk about that for a minute. You can just zoom in on that drawing right there. We did draw for design review as part of their standard criteria of presentation, street elevation, so you can see the height, the elevation, that's the northeast corner there to the left. Looking up at these buildings, which are going to have a lot of trees between the one buildings. Those are 3 to 4 feet away. And as you scroll down, you get a sense of that elevation also in that little site section. Also, you get a sense of just how much space there is between the buildings and the roof. So that's sort of cut right through there. So we thought that was just helpful for everybody to see, really new and feel for what this is going to be. So if you want to go to the floor plan, just keep going up in the set there. Just go one more, next drawing up. If you could just zoom out a little bit, I'll stop very briefly. So there's every unit has a garage on the bottom level and some sort of flexible living space of some sort, with leftover finished space in the lower level. Units are about 2,000 square feet on the upper 2 levels, and the lower level will depend on how much finished space there ends up being. And so the main living is on the 2nd level, so you'll go up and there's living there, and on the upper level there are the bedrooms, and these are all 2-bedroom units, and very simple. But the only thing about this plan I just wanted to mention is that we tried to be a little creative with undulating the front facade of this building so that it had more interest than just your standard townhouse sort of box, which is, I think would have been very easy to do here. But again, I think our client really always pushes us to do something a little more interesting. So if you want to go quickly to that rendering that I emailed you, then I'll finish this up.
So every unit is 2 bedrooms?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is just, if you go back to that first one, if you don't mind.
Yep. No
So what we did with this building prototype is that we mirrored it and we've arranged it so that you really don't have repetitive buildings next to each other. And we're going to utilize some different colors and other things, again, to try to, I think you'll get a general sense that these buildings are not really the same, and that's really what we're after. But, still having this sort of, be as economical as we could with this kind of a plan. But anyway, that gives you a look at what a typical building is. And the other rendering there, if you want to see, we'll show you the green with a lot of the trees. Just put that one right green. It's actually a different one. I probably didn't send you the right one. We have another one with a lot of trees in there. But anyway, that just gives you the general view of that pavilion in the center. I think that's all I really have to say about the buildings. I don't know if you have any questions.
Matt, this is Joe Wright.
What's that?
I was just going to say, Matt, can you discuss the accessible units?
Yeah, there are, how many do we have, Joe? Are they 3 or 5? I can't remember.
I think more than 3, so 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 handicap accessible units. And there will be an offering for people who got a location for elevators, and it's shown as a dotted line there in that plan on the lower right. So they've been laid out so that an elevator could be included in the construction or done after the fact.
And can I ask what kind of price range you're targeting relative to Guilford? Is it high-end, mid-range, low-end?
I think Mr. Navarro, who's on the line, who's one of the principals at Greylock, would probably be best suited to introduce himself and answer that question directly.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Ken Navarro, Greylock Property Group. Yeah, thanks for hearing our application tonight. We appreciate it. We've got a few questions on the price issue. I apologize if I'm a little vague on the issue. We're sort of in a little bit of a dynamic price spiral at the moment. So things that I said a few months ago, I regret now. So I'm going to do my best not to get pinned down on it. But having said that, we think Guilford is in need of reasonable priced housing. There's lots of higher end housing stock in town and not a lot of affordable inventory for maybe people that are downsizing, that want to stay in town, long term, et cetera, or maybe entry-level housing. So we're not going to be low price, but we're going to try hard. You can see the units are pretty, and I think our team did a great job of shaping a unit that's reasonably priced but still quite attractive. So they're not going to be low-end units, but we're going to try to hit that that reasonable price end of the market. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand. I don't know what you would say about that, but I think there's a lot of demand in town and neighboring town for that type of inventory.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I don't think we need another high-end luxury apartment. Something targeting that mid-range, I think is desirable.
Yeah, I think Ken, I'll stick my neck out for Ken and say it won't be anything like the $2 to $3 million units that are up in Brookville. That's not at all how they'll be finished or marketed.
And I think it's the diversity of housing type. I know Guilford has a lot of single family, but the idea of being able to be in a part of a community where you've got a condominium association that takes care of the landscaping, that takes care of the maintenance of the outdoors, it's really great, I think, for younger people, but also people who are downsizing out of single family homes. And successful communities are communities that provide housing at different price points, but also different styles. And that's how you get truly diverse community participation in people living in your community. So we're excited about it. We think it's something that Guilford really needs. And we're excited about the offering that we have.
Kevin, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Kind of in the same vein, I'm curious about this. I don't know if you're going to have the numbers, but what kind of tax revenue would be generated for the town by a complex like this? Do you have a number attached to that?
Is that a developer question or a staff question?
Commissioner-man question?
As staff, I have no answer for you. Sorry.
I think maybe the question, maybe one way to get to that question is the investment that Greylock is likely going to be making into this property, because you can back out the value from there.
So you don't really have an answer to the question?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know, Ken, if you're comfortable with that or to talk about that at all.
Well, I mean, we could, I don't want to head off Jamie on this. Jamie, do you want to comment on that before, or do you?
No, I don't have the knowledge to comment on it. Sorry, Ken.
Okay.
I mean, you get something quick math, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, if you assume an assessed value and you know the town's mill rate, you
I mean, if you
come up
said,
with a
look,
range.
$300,000 of assessed value and 48 units, it's probably $500,000 of revenue to the town. Right. I mean, I'm just throwing it out, but.
Okay.
I did some quick math. I don't know.
That's like, no, I have that, Bill. So
I'd like to nominate Phil as our CFO, and I accept his analysis.
So you did a rough estimate for that. That answered one half of the question. I appreciate that, Bill. So then, conversely, what would be the cost to the town? Potentially.
Again, is that a developer question or?
Again, yeah, it is a developer question.
I think these are rhetorical questions.
So I can answer that to a certain extent. So,
Well, I'm new and there's two other new members, so.
yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. That's a developer question. So, obviously, there are costs with any development in town. There are emergency services that you provide across town that spread throughout the town. And some of that's already sunk costs that, you have police, fire, emergency services like ambulance. I think the one that people typically focus on is school-age children and the cost to educate. Two points on that. One is Many school districts, and I haven't studied Guilford, are actually seeing, in Connecticut, are seeing declining populations. So you have sunk costs already into school infrastructure, and you have basically seats in classrooms that are open. So additional students don't necessarily actually increase your costs. But the other thing is the type of housing. So, I don't know if many of you have been involved with, or are familiar with the Rutgers demographic multiplier studies that have been going on for the last 2 decades, but Rutgers University actually takes large sample sizes of housing in all 50 states and actually measures the generation of school-age children in different housing styles with different rents and numbers of bedrooms. And so that comes out, and it's been updated periodically. But what that really shows, though, and I think it's not just in Connecticut, it's across the board throughout the country, is that school-age children are generated primarily from single-family residential homes. And, people say, well, if you build a unit, you're going to get 2.5 kids. Well, that's too much, to be honest with you. That's not actually statistically supported, but you get closer to that number with single-family homes. When you shift to multifamily, you get a very different result, and particularly for multifamily with 2 bedrooms and less, and which are market rate or higher in value, so those multiply for this project, you get very small numbers of school-age children, with literally 0.2 school-age children perhaps per unit at the high end. In Connecticut has, particularly along the coast, and I do a lot of development sort of in the Stonington to Old Saybrook area, you have even lower because of the nature of the residents, and people who have money and have families are buying single-family homes primarily. So you see very few children, particularly in housing like this. So to answer your question, Mr. Clark, what are the costs? There is some incremental cost for emergency services. But the school-age children, we don't think this is a project that's going to generate significant numbers of school-age children. And all of our infrastructure, our roadways, our internal roadways, our internal sidewalks, our stormwater, those are all covered and maintained by the homeowners association and not town. It's not something that's going to be paid for out of the general fund. So I think undoubtedly this will be a positive net economic development for this project.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney, thank you very much for that answer. That actually helps out a lot. I've never gotten a response like that before, so I really appreciate it. I've got a lot to work off there. So is there a link that you could provide for that Rutgers study?
Yeah.
Or tell me what it is. Tell me what it is now and I can write it down.
Yeah, I don't have the link in front of me, but I'm sure Jamie, it's something that we use all the time. Jamie, I'm sure Jamie's familiar with the Rutgers, but you can literally go on Google and write Rutgers demographic multipliers, and you'll get it, and it's updated. You can even pick the state, and you can actually then look at all the different scenarios. You can look at, I think they go from 1 unit, like 1-bedroom apartments to 5-bedroom apartments, and then they have rents as well. So it's all data tables that you can look, and you can see the number of school-age children that is likely to be generated. And I've actually tested it, because I do a lot of multifamily development. I've tested it in projects throughout, and it's sort of like traffic generation. Traffic generation is based on these large-scale models the IT uses, and they're uncanny in being able to predict it. The Rutgers demographic multipliers are uncanny in the ability to predict the number of school-age children generated.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. So again, I guess finalizing it, you're anticipating that this would actually be a net positive.
Without a doubt, yeah, a significant one, I think. And again, multifamily housing in general is a positive. The only time multifamily housing can be a drain on resources is when you go 3 bedrooms or more and you go below market rate with housing. So for the median income. So obviously lower income apartments with 3 or more bedrooms typically generate larger number of school-age children. If you think about it, there is some common sense behind that. So if you stay at 2-bedroom or less, and it really doesn't matter the income level, 2 bedrooms or less, you're going to have very few school-age children. But particularly where you have market rate or up, it's very, very low percentages.
Okay, no, thank you. I was going to say that
generally, your projects like this, if they meet the town regs, they're gonna pass if they meet the town regs. But I think it's a good idea for the general taxpayer to know is which kinds of, development cost the taxpayer money in the long run, and which kind of development actually makes the taxpayer some money in the long run. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair point. If you actually take a moment to look at the MU-C2 zoning district and the purpose of that, I mentioned two of the purposes. One was to provide, one I didn't talk about was flexible commercial opportunities, which we're not proposing, but, provide quality housing, protect open space, but the project should also have economic development value to the town as well. So I think we meet all of those requirements with this project, and Ken's done projects, of this quality throughout sort of southeastern Connecticut, and all of his projects, I think are always positives for the community, and I think you should study that multiplier study, because when you look at other projects, you might find different scenarios. You might, if you see a project that has lots of bedrooms with very low rents, that might be a concern. You're not supposed to use school-age children generation as a basis for zoning decisions here in Connecticut, but at least you can understand what the tax implications are.
Correct. Appreciate it. Again, thank you.
I think it's also.
I might point out, if I may, because I've looked at this a little bit, for the last 4 decades, the population of Guilford High School is flat. And while the town has grown, it's an aging population. And frankly, more kids in the school would probably make
I
help an underpopulated school population.
I actually think the demographics show a decrease in the school-age population.
It does, that's why there's programs that are,
That's common in most towns with Wisconsin, and it's across the board. And if you think about it, the taxpayer has paid for all that infrastructure in the school, and when you have an empty seat, you paid for that empty seat in the classroom already, and you're not getting any benefit of it. So
You're not promoting larger class sizes, right?
no, but
I'm just.
no. It is funny though when I go into a lot of communities, people get very worried about school-age children, and then you look at their demographics and you say, geez, you have classrooms that are empty. Like, you have actual capacity for kids. You want people to live in your town. You want kids to grow up in your town. That's what makes a vibrant community.
And in fact, Guilford's trying to import students.
right, that's what I was mentioning. They're starting a program to import it.
If I could just add a note to some of Bill's comments, just, as a developer, as a developer, we certainly are trying to make money the developer, but it's not all about the money. We have other goals too, and one of the goals is to try to create more vibrant coastal towns. I think the conversation over the last few minutes is very typical, and Bill and his role and Jamie, I'm sure, hears this a lot too. There's a lot more concern about our aging population in these beautiful coastal communities, big infrastructure that's got to be paid for either way. And, we'd like to build something that is economically efficient, which, if you think about, we're getting 48 units into this previous unused parcel. So it's quite a dense property tax engine, if you will. With, arguably very little incremental cost, certainly not internal to the site incremental cost in terms of roads and things like that. We don't have those, and Bill mentioned the few external costs. But again, we all have to be thinking about, as being part of the planning role and the development role in these towns, I want my kids to be able to live here too, and we need to create, affordable, dynamic housing environment, and it's not easy. So we should. This is a diamond in the rough, this project, and it's really, I think, a win-win, all the way around. So that's my stump speech. Thanks for listening.
Great, appreciate it, thank you. And I think we all really appreciate the thorough presentation you guys have put out there. We do have a couple memos from town staff that we need to get out. onto the
Mr.
record.
Chairman,
Yes, Jamie?
Peter Schultz is giving me the 5 minutes on the tape, so just keep that in mind when reading our memo.
All right, Mr. Johnson, Peter Johnson, Philip Johnson, do you think you can do Janice's memo here? I can put it up on the screen too.
This is from Janice Blasiak, town engineer, dated June 13, 2022, Strawberry Hill Preserve, 2222 and 2240 Boston Post Road Site Development Plan. I have reviewed the site plan for the above referenced property. The project includes low-impact development and adequate stormwater management infrastructure. The proposed sidewalk along the frontage of the property meets the recommendation outlined by the Guilford State Streets Report and Route 1 West Planning Committee report. The following conditions of approval are recommended. 1, the access driveway and emergency access driveway are private driveways with no maintenance or plowing to be provided to the town. Since the development operates as one site but will be built as 2 separate parcels, cross easements approved by the town and town council shall be filed on land records prior to issuance of a building permit, prior to issuance of any certificate of occupancy, an association or some other legal entity shall be established to provide for the maintenance of the shared infrastructure, driveway, stormwater system, sidewalks, garbage removal for this development. 2, prior to issuance of a building permit, the conservation property shall be deeded to the Guilford Land Conservation Trust with easements for access if necessary on the development parcels. 3, sidewalks along the frontage of the property are to be constructed per the CTDOT standards detail and Form 818 requirements, including handicap ramps at the driveway crossing. The engineering department shall be notified when the construction of the sidewalks along Route 1 will begin for inspection. All work done within the state right-of-way must have an encroachment permit from the CTDOT prior to work starting. 4, stormwater management declaration and stormwater operation and management plan requirements. A, written maintenance and operation manual for the stormwater management system located at the subject site. The manual should provide for provisions, yearly inspection, maintenance of stormwater system, yearly report to the town engineer. The maintenance schedule should include, but not be limited to, weekly, monthly, quarterly inspections of the property for litter, monitoring the dumpster and outside storage areas, monitoring the catch basins, and the removal of accumulated material and non-native invasive species in the detention basin and energy dissipator. The maintenance plan needs to provide a statement that stormwater management plan will be reviewed annually so that inspection/maintenance requirements may be modified and that any changes to the plan would require approval of the town engineer. B, an as-built drawing of the completed stormwater system prepared in accordance with section 273-75.f, stormwater management, subsection 6, construction. C, the applicant shall file a maintenance covenant on the land records as required by section 273-75F, stormwater management, subsection 7, maintenance covenants of the town of Guilford zoning code. Hopefully I read the right memo.
We have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And in 2 minutes, who else feels like they can read quickly? I can do this one. This is from Planning and Zoning Commission to Planning and Zoning Commission from Southern Marina RS MPH dated June 14. This project Strawberry Hill Preserve. The proposed site plan and lot line modification on the above referenced property designed by Joe Wren, PE, dated May 18, 2022, has been given preliminary approval by the local health department. The site plan shows the connection to the public water supply and subsurface sewage disposal systems designed for each building. Please note that the LHD will need to do a full review of the site plans and provide comments. However, the overall plan demonstrates that all SSDS have enough naturally occurring soils native to the site to allow for the design of 100% code-compliant SSDSs and 100% reserve areas. Please note that each building's flow is less than 2,000 GPD, and the combined flows for each of the properties are collectively 7,500 GPD or less. Therefore, the review and permitting process for the SSDS is under the Guilford Health Department. Attorney Sweeney, have you received these two memos and you're fine with all the comments and stipulations?
Yes, I have received both of the memos, we've reviewed them, and we're fine with those comments and stipulations.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to step away for a moment. No business will be done while we are off the recording. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Stand by.
And we're good.
Hello, thank you for joining us again. We took a break, but no business was discussed, and we are continuing our discussion of Strawberry Hill Preserve. Attorney Sweeney, I think you guys have done your full presentation. Do we have any more questions from commissioners for this project? I think we've covered a lot to this point. Seeing no questions from commissioners, would someone like to make a motion related to this item? They were emailed, right?
Mr. Sands, would you like to read the motion?
Sure. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan and lot line modification for a 48-unit multifamily residential development at 2222 and 2240 Boston Post Road, map 78, lots 10 and 11, zone MU/C2. Approved plans are Strawberry Hill Preserve compiled subdivision set as of June 10, 2022, prepared by Greylock Property Group LLC, 2222-2240 Boston Post Road, US Route 1, map 78, lots 10 and 11, Guilford, Connecticut. 30 sheets. Drainage report, revised, prepared by Indigo Land Design LLC, dated June 3rd, 2022. Associated drainage maps, 2 sheets, existing and proposed, dated May 17, 2022. These applications are approved with the following conditions. 1, pursuant to state statute, this site plan and associated site improvements, as well as soil erosion and sediment control plan approval, is valid for a period of 5 years following the date of the decision until June 5th, 2027. Upon petition by the applicant, the commission may, at its discretion, grant extensions totaling no more than an additional 5 years to complete all work connected to the original approval. 2, a final digital copy, single file PDF, and 1 printed hard copy of the full site plan and lot line modification shall be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department prior to the zoning enforcement officers review and sign off of building permits. 3, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 4, the lot line modification Mylar will be reviewed and approved by the local health department and zoning enforcement officer prior to being filed on the Guilford land records within the town clerk's office. 5, the dedication of land must be conveyed to the Guilford Land Conservation Trust and accepted in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 47-6B prior to the approval of the building permit. This deed shall include an easement agreement giving the GLCT the right to park and access the property for periodic inspections. 6, prior to the dedication of land, a boundary survey shall be performed which marks all of the corners of the to-be deeded property with hard markers, iron pins or similar permanent markers, along with several hard markers being placed along the common boundary between the GLCT property and that being retained by the developer. 7, the common boundary shall be clearly flagged and marked during construction so that any development activities remain away from the to-be GLCT lands and no construction debris, stumps, or soils be pushed onto the land that GLCT would be holding for conservation purposes. 8, the remains of a pump house located in the southern portion of the 2240 property, to be GLCT lands, and related debris shall be removed along with as much of the structure as can be reasonably removed without significant disturbance to the surrounding wetlands. 9, final as-built survey shall be submitted to all proposed structures, driveways, parking areas, stormwater systems, and other improvements as specified before the certificate of occupancy approval by the zoning enforcement officer. 10, in the event that landscaping and other site improvements are not complete, a bond shall be provided to the planning and zoning department prior to the planning and zoning sign-off for certificate of occupancy in an amount equal to the estimated cost of the remaining approved landscapes. 11, the access driveway and emergency access driveway are private drives with no maintenance or plowing to be provided by the town. 12, cross easements for parking, stormwater management, and other shared operations and maintenance between the two lots shall be noted on the final site plan. Easement documents are to be provided for review by town staff and council and filed on the land records. 13, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, an association or some other legal entity will be established to provide for the maintenance of the shared infrastructure, driveways, stormwater systems, sidewalks, garbage removal, etc., for the full development. Written evidence of this entity's formation and operating agreement shall be provided to the planning and zoning department. 14, to ensure future compliance with the stormwater management system in accordance to section 273-75F of the zoning code. A, prepare a written maintenance and operation manual for all stormwater management systems located on the subject site. The manual shall provide provisional for yearly inspection, maintenance of the stormwater system, and yearly reports to the town engineer. The maintenance schedule shall include, but not be limited to, weekly, monthly, quarterly inspections of property, litter, monitoring any outside storage areas, monitoring of catch basins, oil, particulate separators, underground stormwater systems, the removal of accumulated material and non-native invasive species in the swales, and energy dissipators. The maintenance plan needs to provide a statement that the stormwater management plan shall be reviewed annually so that inspection/maintenance requirements may be modified and that any change to the plan would require the approval of the town engineer. B, and quote, as-built drawing, close quote, of the completed stormwater system be prepared in accordance with section 273-75F stormwater management subsection 6, paren construction, close paren of the town of Guilford zoning code. 13. C, the applicant shall file a maintenance covenant on the land records as required by section 273-75F, stormwater maintenance subsection 7, paren maintenance covenant, close paren of the town of Guilford zoning code. 15, sidewalks along the frontage of the property are to be constructed per the CT DOT standard detail and form 818 requirements, including handicap ramps for the driveway crossings. The applicant shall notify the engineering department for inspection when construction of sidewalks along Route 1 begins. All work done within the state right-of-way must have an encroachment permit from CT DOT prior to the start of the work. These applications are approved based upon a finding that they conform with the town of Guilford zoning code, and the development is in accordance with the town's plan of conservation and development. This approval shall become effective 15 days after publication of the legal notice and decision.
I think before we do anything else, we should give Ted a round of applause. Yeah, that was as lengthy as anything I've ever heard. Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
That's on Mr.
For
Green.
the applause, or?
Yes. Discussion. Mr. Johnson?
I asked the question earlier, and I kind of didn't really get a full answer, and I think I know the answer. You know, when you drive into this development when it's done, because I'm pretty sure it's going to get done, it will certainly have the appearance of a single development. And we're changing a property line, but maintaining it as two separate properties to avoid the DEP's involvement. Why are we avoiding DEP's? I mean, clearly there are reasons why if a development is discharging more than a certain amount, which this will be, the DEP wants to be involved. Why are we avoiding that?
It will be, if this was one lot, then it would.
Well, I mean, we're changing the lot lines to give them additional cover, additional property in their second lot. So why wouldn't we just merge the lots and have the DEP oversight? I mean, I know the answer, and the answer is money. But what exactly is the DEP gonna, what would the DEP do differently than our town health department is doing? I guess I'm concerned that we're potentially passing up, you know, protective regulations for the sake of cost. I'm just asking the question.
So the same thing just happened with Hubbard Road, right?
Well, except we can't say no to Hubbard Road for anything other than health and safety.
Right, but they did the same thing. They took one lot, they subdivided it into two so they could separate out the gallonage between the two buildings and not have, so they wouldn't have to qualify for a DEP system.
So there were two lots on Hubbard Road?
Right.
So again, I guess, what, and I don't know the answer, what is so onerous about DEP regulations that people are going to this extent to either subdivide properties?
I can answer it.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
I know the answer too. Right?
The answer is you're not going to get a permit, and you won't get a permit. The DEP will not approve community septic systems except in very, very limited fashion. I've worked on a couple over the last 20 years, and the average wait time is 2.5 years, and they are loath to approve them. I think what's really important is this is ultimately an issue of public health code, which your health department has regulation. Sonia, I forget her last name.
Marina.
Yeah, she's reviewed our plan, and she has approved our plan as conforming to the public health code in this design. So there's no issue of environmental contamination or safety. It meets the health code requirement. this, like I said, this is not an unusual step, and I think Mr. Clark already mentioned somebody else has done it. I've done this on a dozen projects over the last 10 years.
It just seems counterintuitive that there would be, some DEP.
The DEP is counterintuitive. I mean,
you deal with them more than I do, so.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is this: is that in areas of the state that are not sewer, this technique is the only technique to provide for anything more than single-family home development. So if you want to have multifamily development in your town, or in any town wants to have multifamily development in any part of their town without sanitary sewage service, this is the only way to do it under Connecticut law as it stands today. And it's completely acceptable and widely used. Does it make sense? I don't think the system should work like that, but that's just not how the law is written right now. So this is a commonly accepted and conforming to public health code way of addressing the situation.
And Bill, this is Joe Wren. If I could add to that too quickly, just for even more clarification. The DEP allows you to use the Department of Public Health code up to a total discharge on a property of 7,500 gallons a day. So we have two parcels here. If one of these parcels was sold separately, they could discharge 7,500 gallons a day. If the other one was sold to a different entity, they could discharge 7,500 gallons a day. We're doing the same exact thing here, except they're being purchased at the same time together, and you're able to discharge 15,000 over the two lots, no more than 7,500 on each. Bill touched on some of this, but the permitting time is very onerous. We'll be in a completely different economy by that time, and this project may never get done. There is an owner of this property. The applicant is not the owner, so there's a real estate contract. There's no owner that's going to wait 2.5, 3.5 years for the owner to do their due diligence, get their approvals from the state, and move forward. So in order to get these projects done in any reasonable time frame, they have to be done this way. But I can't iterate enough that we have two lots. We're not skirting around any issue or approval. We have two lots and we can discharge this amount. The last point I wanted to make is if you compare this to the system at Guilford Village West, they took a huge area for that DEP community system and stripped it down to the ledge, essentially, put soil back. They removed all the trees and everything. And at the end of that, it's filtering through that soil. Then there's a collection system that goes into more soil infiltration areas. So you have to remove a large area of trees to create a large system like that for these 96 bedrooms on the site, 48 times 2. It would be a very large area of that front slope, if not all of it, that would have to be cleared, stripped of soil, graded, soil added, and so forth. And the project would look a lot different if we had to go that route.
I'm just going to add one last thing to that, what I've been told by several others over the years about this, is that the DEP, I think, is recognizing that, A, they don't have the resources to regulate these type of systems. Also, that long-term, I think that the new philosophy is that the type of traditional Department of Public Health design system is just more sustainable. It's based on what the land will allow. So I think that's why they've begun to almost endorse, from what I've seen, Joe, please correct me, this technique versus going to these packaged sewage treatment plants in isolated lots.
They much prefer, they'll tell you straight up that they're very understaffed. I just spoke to one of the people in the subsurface group this morning at a site meeting. They're so understaffed and overworked at this point in time that it's difficult for them to oversee these and permit and approve these in any reasonable amount of time frame. The other thing related to what Matt was getting at is that those DEP systems require, all septics obviously have maintenance, of course, but with the DEP system, there's required reporting and monitoring of the system that can cost $80,000 to $100,000 a year. So a homeowners association or condo association may not be able to come up with enough residual funding to support that over the years, and it just negatively affects that development and where they could spend their money, whether it's open space stewardship or maintaining the drainage that they're required to do, maintaining the roadways, maintaining the landscaping. I think we would rather have them put that extra money into those things rather than be forced to do this annual and monthly maintenance for these DEP systems that aren't really any better than the others.
Are the systems that the DEP would require and the systems that you're putting in essentially the same? It's just we're coming up with a different, no.
They're different systems. It's a community system, so everything goes into one rather than broken up into 12 different smaller areas.
What's being proposed now is a conventional system, as if it was any other residential for that lot. The DEP would be like, it would be a design system specific.
Something like 66 High Street?
Yeah, it would be expansive. It would, like you said, you'd end up clearing out a huge amount of space for it. It would be very different.
Typically, it's done to allow much more intensive development.
Correct.
You know, a site like this, it really doesn't make any sense.
I know there's a lot of voices on this, but I think the most, from a developer's point of view, the most important thing, I think, for the commission here is that a DEP system opens the door to much more intensive development. We, on the other hand, are limited by what the land can handle. So the reason our project is relatively low density is because we determined that's what the land could handle. But if you flip to a DEP system, you could conceptually, double the number of units. So that's how, dense projects like, let's say, the Muse over in Madison, how do they get all those units squeezed into that little piece of land? Well, they have a DEP system to do that. So I think from a town standpoint, limiting development to what the land can handle is a great natural regulator on the appropriateness of the density of development, and that's the theme that we follow here.
Appreciate it.
Guilford, do you still have a comment?
No, I think it's been covered completely.
Thanks. Any other discussion related to the motion? We have a motion from Ted Sands, and I believe Bill Freeman was the second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go with roll call vote. Kevin Clark?
I abstain.
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Ted Sands?
Yes.
Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove?
Aye.
Frank Andrew?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for all your information. I sincerely appreciate it.
Great presentation.
I hope the current, I hope things keep at least steady enough for you to be able to get this thing in the ground well.
We're going to do our very best. I just wanted to take a moment to also thank Jamie Stein, who's been amazing to work with. And I know she was a member of the commission the last time we were here. And she's doing a great job, and she just has a really collaborative way of doing business. And I work in a lot of different towns, and it's a refreshing thing when you run into a planner like that. So I want the commission to know that she's doing a great job.
The commission's really good, too.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, let's move forward. We have one of the pending applications that's coming up in July. We have some new applications. Eagle View Homes LLC, 405 Whitfield Street, map 28, lot 12, special permit modification to merge units 2. I think it's to merge 2 units into a single unit along with some minor facade changes. That's a receive and set public hearing for July 6, 2022. There's also Rochelle and Barry Kaplan, 101 West Lane, map 5, lot 31, zone R6, site plan, special permit and site plan for a barn over 750 square feet. That's a receive and set public hearing for July 6, 2022. and Keith Bishop, 1355 Boston Post Road, map 52, lot 7, zone R5, zone boundary change from R5 to PB2. Receive and set public hearing for July 20th, 2022. Do I hear a motion and a second?
A move.
All right, move from Bill Johnson. I'll give a shot after the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Other business, approval of minutes. Was anyone able to review the minutes?
Substantially correct. I would reiterate the same position.
All right, so who would like to make a motion for the minutes?
Never seen.
Sean Cosgrove,
Second.
from Phil Johnson. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain?
I do. I didn't read, I'm sorry. I didn't see them.
Parks abstains. Motion carries. Do we have any other business before we move on to executive session referring to the use of funds?
No, we do not.
All right, so